Validator class is interesting. It's a factory class again. Factory meaning something that we would use again and again perhaps in different types of projects. So having written it once, it takes advantage of one of the major features of OOP, which is the fact that you can get small complete units of code that are reusable in various places. So here's my validator class that you're going to copy and you're going to repeat. I just want to explain what it does, and I'll explain just one component of it, and you should be able to deduce what the other components do. This is just a very brief introduction. I showed you the directives before. These are the directives which are saying which parts of the C# library are going to be included in this particular module. We don't need them all, but I'm going to leave them there, and you would trim them down if your application was space sensitive. For example, in something that was going to run on a limited amount of memory, then you would reduce this by as much as you can. On our machines, it's not important. Got our namespace, I've introduced that before, and here's our class. Now we've made it a static class so that it can be used anywhere in the application without being made as a new object every time you have to use it. So it becomes a bit like these classes up here. We can refer to them, we don't have to make new instances of them, we just use them when we need them. Now the first part is we have a string, and it's the only member that's a field in the whole of the class. And it's a string, it's a static string, and it's called title, and we're setting its value initially to entry error. Now we could pass a different value into the function, into the class, to make that read whatever we want. And sometimes when we want to change the context, we might have a validator method later on in the class that says, well, it's not actually an entry, it's something different. So let's reflect that in the feedback we give to the user, because remember, you must keep the user informed at all stages. That's the private component of the field. Here's the property, which is the public property, which I've just expanded and contracted so that it makes it clear what it is. The get and the set. Remember, the get is to say what its value is at the moment, and the set is to change it to a new value when you need to. So that's very straightforward. So I can do that when I need to show you something and point it out to you. That's just a thing that you might want to know about. So we can get rid of that. Now what I hope to do is just to show you this one method, and here's two other methods down here. So let's just focus in on this one method. And what it's going to do, it's called public. It's static because it's going to be part of the static class, but you need to make the method static too. And it's going to return a bool, which, as you will know, is a true or false value. It's going to check for the presence of a value in a control. And what we do is we call the function a name. In this case, it's called isPresent. And we're going to check our control by defining the control whenever we need to use the function. Now there's an if, else if, which means that you've seen this before, and you've seen that this is a check on a couple of values. So if it's not this, it might be this. So if the control type, get type, is a text box, then we're going to run this bit of code. Else if the control get type is a combo box, which is the drop-down control, we're going to run this bit of code. So that gives us access to the two types of controls which normally contain text entered by the user or selected by the user. So here's our text box. Our text box is the control that we've passed in, and if the text box text is the empty string, it means that there's nothing in it. So we can turn out a value a message to the user saying this, and the title is a required field. It shows the text box name and a tag for the text box, which is a little text value that you can give to each of the controls on a form. If that's not true, if it's not empty, then we say that this function is going to return true. Similarly with a combo box. A way of defining no selection made is if the selected index in the combo box is -1. So you're going to say this combo box tag is a required field, else return true. And that's the way they all work. That's the way these functions work. This one's unusual because there are two types of controls that we're going to check, where this one is simply checking for one type of value. But it contains a little bit of code that I want to try and introduce to you a little bit later. But that's how the Validator class works. Let's just run it through again just briefly for you. Got our directives at the top. We've got a static class, which means it's like a library class. We've declared an entry error string, which is going to be the error that we're going to return here. And that's going to be the title of the message box. And we've got a function called isPresent, which is going to return true or false. We check what type of control we've got. It's either that one or that one. And if it's a text box, we run this code. If the text box has an empty string, it means that there's nothing typed into it. We return a message to tell the user it's a required item. If the combo box has a value of -1, it means that they haven't made a selection. Effectively, the combo box is null, and it returns this message. If they're true, so you return true in both cases. And that's the way it works.